Hi, I'm Jason Adams. I'm the CTO of Mercatus. We are a leading data platform for managing investment data for the private markets. So the technical integrations, and at its most basic level, an integration is simply an exchange of information between two different systems. However, that can be very simple, as I just stated, or it can be extremely complex and could be an orchestrated exchange of data and events across many different systems that has to be done in a very specific way in order to achieve a business goal. But at the end of the day, we always look at an integration as simply just trying to get information from point A to point B to do something of value. The work that goes into an integration really varies, and I think that's the major challenge in the industry. When you look at the breadth of scope when it comes to doing an integration across all the different systems, across the topology and the landscape, especially within infrastructure, it really makes it challenging to forecast who you need on that specific integration to implement it, the scope of what goes into that implementation, as well as all the dependencies across business stakeholders, across technical teams, and across vendors. So ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just such a broad spectrum. It's very difficult to put an average onto things like cost and time. So I think it's important to note that integrations, that's from a time perspective and a cost perspective, we always have to understand that the largest factor in that is going to be labor, and the people that have to do the implementation, scope the integration, and then manage that integration over time, meaning coordination with vendors, following all of the different technologies as they continuously evolve, and making sure everything at the end of the day is still in working order so it can achieve the business goal and the purpose that it's set out to do. Those times and those costs will vary by the complexity of what's trying to be achieved. There's many challenges just with designing the proper integration landscape, but one of the many pieces that's typically overlooked is the maintainability. So many teams in the space go out and they think about just the initial point in time. So everybody gets very excited about the opportunity to integrate between the two systems to make everybody's life easier. An example would be trying to get operating data from an infrastructure investment where you have an operator in an energy asset, or let's say a toll road, a bridge, or even an airport, and the ability to not have to worry about the manual acquisition of that data and to instead rely on an automated way of receiving that is very exciting. However, once you go through all that initial effort of scoping that, getting alignment across the business, across all the different stakeholders, both technical teams and business teams, you deploy that and everybody thinks that it's done. However, all of the individual technologies and the stakeholders and the business as it stands continues to evolve. The data changes, the endpoints that you're using, whatever the vendor may be, a CRM, an operating platform, it doesn't really matter, will continue to change. And so you must think about and consider the longevity and the maintainability of that. So it's a very, very large factor in the overall budget and the scoping, as well as the team dynamics that you have in place to support it. One of the big misnomers, especially in the private market space and very specifically within infrastructure as well, is there's an idea that you integrate once and you're done. And I think that uniquely in our industry, specifically inside of infrastructure, you don't have much control. And so even if you're integrating with the same solution or same endpoints, call it a CRM system or a SCADA system or an operating platform, you might be working with a given portfolio, and that might be a specific version of that technology with a specific type of data that you have in that version of that technology that you're working with that operator. You might go and bring on a new fund and bring on a new portfolio using the same technology, but the data sets will be completely different. The versions will be completely different. And even the way of getting access to that data will be completely different. So outside of familiarity with the individual technologies, there's not a whole lot of acceleration or benefit that is reusable, specifically in our space, given the variability and the dynamic nature of the investment landscape. A lot of times the technology teams, they get very caught up in technical integrations, and they're worried about APIs, and they're worried about, the latency of the data. However, at the end of the day, the actual fundamental problem within the private market space and infrastructure within that as an asset class is the variability of the data. It's not about building the perfect integration. It's actually more about being able to flex and handle very rapid development of many integrations and maintain them as best as possible as they continuously shift. To put it into basic terms, um, think about a consumer space where everybody has a mobile device, and that mobile device might have has an assistant on it, a digital assistant on it. And there's two major phone manufacturer or operating platforms for mobile devices today. There's a couple of digital assistants, but if I wanted to schedule an event or schedule a dinner, with some friends, or go out and meet with them, I might ask my digital assistant to set that up for me. That's an integration. And the reason that that can work is because everybody's using the same platform. All the data is the same, and there's really few variables in it. If I wanted to translate that into infrastructure investing, that would be akin to having everybody having a different phone, everybody having a different manufacturer of that phone, everyone having a different digital assistant, and the reservation app that we're all using is a completely different reservation app and different versions of it. And by the way, all of that changes every month. So that is the real challenge that we're trying to solve in the industry, is how do you deal with the fact that you don't really have downstream control to push a standardization down, but instead you have to actually deal with the variability and adapt to it. Meanwhile, being able to take advantage of the data that you're trying to utilize to make those sound investment decisions. Every investment's different, and you have such an interesting mosaic inside of the investment stack, whether you're raising a new fund, and if you're a GP and you're working with operators, or you're an operator and you're sending data to multiple GPs or multiple funds, or maybe even LPs as a direct invest. It's going to vary by site, by asset, by portfolio company, by general partner, or even a limited partner across the entire stack. And so that nature is, one, really exciting for a technologist like myself, but two, does inject a very specific nuance and challenge to the market in general. And it's great that we're now digitizing and addressing these challenges as an industry.